Under the cold skies of rural Wisconsin, there stood a farmhouse that looked ordinary. Weathered wood, a sagging roof, the kind of place you'd pass on the road without a second thought. But behind those walls lived one of the most disturbing men in American history. His name was Ed Gein. Imagine walking into your neighbor's house and finding chairs upholstered in skin, bowls carved from skulls, a lampshade stitched from flesh. In the corner, a mask made from someone's face. This isn't legend, this was reality. Edward Theodore Gein was born in 1906. His childhood was shaped by his mother, Augusta, a strict, fanatically religious woman who drilled into him that women were sinful and corrupt. She isolated Ed and his brother, never letting them have friends, forcing her twisted beliefs onto them until it was all they knew. Ed grew up quiet, obedient, and disturbingly devoted to her. When Augusta died in 1945, something inside Ed fractured. He kept her bedroom sealed like a shrine, untouched, frozen in time. Alone in that creaking farmhouse, he sank into obsession. He began reading about anatomy, grave robbing, and stories of human experiments. Curiosity soon turned into action. At night, Ed roamed cemeteries. He dug up freshly buried corpses and carried them home. There he skinned them, carved them, and preserved them. With each body, he built a grotesque collection of trophies, furniture, masks, and clothing fashioned from human remains. He dreamed of sewing together a woman's suit so he could step into his mother's skin and become her. For years, no one in Plainfield suspected the quiet handyman. He helped neighbors with odd jobs, babysat children, and seemed odd but harmless. Beneath that mask of normality, however, was a nightmare waiting to be uncovered. It happened on November 16, 1957. That morning, Bernice Worden, the local hardware store owner, vanished. A bloody trail led out of the shop. The cash register was gone. Suspicion quickly turned toward Ed, who had been seen in the store earlier that day. Police drove out to his farmhouse. The door creaked open. The air inside was thick and suffocating, and what they found has haunted them forever. The house was filled with horrors beyond imagination. A refrigerator with human organs, a box of noses, a belt studded with nipples, leggings sewn from skin, a collection of masks, faces peeled and preserved, some worn by Ed in the dark. And in the shed was Bernice Worden, decapitated, hung upside down, split open like an animal. When questioned, Ed confessed calmly. He admitted to killing Bernice Worden and Mary Hogan, a tavern owner who had vanished years before. The rest of his collection, he claimed, came from grave robbing. When asked about the skin suit, his words were chilling. He said, "I wanted to be her." Psychiatrists diagnosed him with severe mental illness. He was declared insane and spent the rest of his life in institutions until his death in 1984. But what makes Ed Gein's story so terrifying isn't just the murders. It's the realization that beneath the surface of a quiet town, beneath the image of a harmless neighbor, true horror was festering in silence. Ed Gein inspired some of the most infamous characters in horror history: Norman Bates, Leatherface, Buffalo Bill. But the reality was worse than fiction. He wasn't a monster hiding in the shadows. He was the man next door, the one who waved politely, the one people trusted with their children. That's what makes his story so bone-chilling. Because horror doesn't always live in haunted houses or dark forests. Sometimes it lives across the street, in a farmhouse with peeling paint and drawn curtains. And sometimes in the neighbor you think you know. So the next time you pass by an old house on a lonely road, remember Ed Gein and ask yourself, What secrets could be hiding inside?